So I've decided to do a video on how to make stuffed crusted pork chops. The ingredients you'll need is pork chops, kind of flat. You might have to flatten them out a little bit. Taco sauce, mushrooms, potatoes diced with green peppers and onions. I'll show you that later. You'll need your breadcrumbs. I use the King's Hawaiian. And your ingredients are going to be salt, pepper, onion powder, Cajun seasoning, onion salt, garlic pepper seasoning, and of course, basil. You'll also need corn, drained as well as you possibly can because we're making fried corn, and aluminum foil. So, to begin with, you want to get about one and a third cup of water, 2 tablespoons of butter, and you want to bring that to a boil. Okay, while that's boiling, you're going to take your pork chop. Okay, you're going to salt and pepper each pork chop. Just, a little bit or to taste. Once we're done and this water is boiled, we're going to add our seasonings to, like I said, this is King's Hawaiian. And it comes like this, and you just want to season it. So I use the garlic pepper seasoning, probably about a half a teaspoon or a shake or two. That's usually how I do it. Onion salt, just a little, about a half a teaspoon. A little bit of Cajun seasoning because I like a little bit of kick. So you want about a teaspoon. Onion powder, of course, gotta have that, about a teaspoon. And then your dried basil. Most people use real basil, but I'm going to use dry. You'll want about a teaspoon and a half of this. Salt and pepper. Mix it. Right, you don't really necessarily have to bring the water to a boil as long as it's like super hot and you see your butter melted. Then you go ahead and you add your mixture. You mix it up real good. And you're going to want to let it set for about 10 minutes because that'll soak up all that water and it'll be stuffing or dressing. We call it dressing down here. Some folks call it stuffing. We call it dressing down south. So you just set that aside. And while we're waiting on that, we're going to go ahead and start with the potatoes. Now, before I said that I had the potatoes with the green peppers, the onions, you got red peppers and green peppers in here. And you just want to, slice and dice them, wash them off, of course, and just put them like that. And I line my pan with aluminum foil, but I'm also going to use pieces of aluminum foil. About like that. Cut square. What you're going to do is you're going to put some mushrooms in here. My husband likes a lot of mushrooms, so this is going to be his. And then you take a handful of the potatoes and the green peppers and onions. Put that in there. Wash my hands. And the salt and pepper, a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. You're going to take your butter. About that much butter. Just put it in there. And then you're just going to wrap it up nice. Kind of like a, I don't know, just fold it like this. Make sure it's, in there real good. You don't want any potatoes in the ends that are folded. And you just kind of fold it up. And you make as many as you need. Of course, we'll need a few. I'm going to do 3 like that. Same way. Get your mushrooms, the potatoes and green peppers, your salt, your pepper, your butter, crimp your ends and get it real tight because you want it to steam pretty much. That's what you're doing. You're kind of making like a little steam thing in there. This is really good too with catfish. You can do this exact same thing. If you like baked catfish, you can do your catfish the same way. You put your mushrooms in, then of course you put your catfish and your potatoes and stuff in there just the same. Really good recipe. You do your pepper and your salt and your butter. Oh. Okay. So that's that. Okay, so after these are done, you just want to go ahead and set them aside because you still have your pork chops to make, and these cook about the same amount of time as your pork chops do. They will be done exactly when your pork chops get done. So you want to make sure that you cook everything on a 350-degree oven. So preheat your oven. It'll be 350, and set these aside. Don't forget to set these aside. That's majorly important to set those aside. Now, our stuffing is ready to go in. So, just got to fluff it up a little bit. It's still hot, so you're going to want a foil pan. You're going to take your stuffing and you're just going to spread it right down the pork chop. Get it good and flat, you know. I'm just doing this like everybody else would do it at home. You just poke it with your finger, whatever you got to do. Okay? So you're going to take your pork chop. Now you've already salt and peppered the pork chop, don't forget. And you're just going to roll it up. Okay? Once you get it rolled up, you got a pretty good roll on it, you know. You're going to take this seasoning here, and you're just going to roll it in that. Nice and sprinkle it on top, pat it in a little bit. Get that seasoning real well. In case I didn't tell you what the seasoning is, this is breadcrumbs, Parmesan cheese, basil, a little bit of onion powder, and garlic powder. You're going to place it on your pan. You can go through and just put a little extra crust if you like a lot of crust on yours. Like so. And you get your next one. Gotta get your salt. Gotta get your pepper. Get your dressing. That's what we call it down here. But if it helps y'all northerners, I'll say stuffing and dressing at the same time in the same sentence. That's how we do. Alright, you're just gonna roll it up, and you'll have a little piece, you know. So when you get to that spot, you just kind of want to tuck it a little bit. Make sure you get your dressing in there real good, or your stuffing. Of course, we're gonna cut it back up, you know. Tuck it in a little bit. Roll it around in your breadcrumbs. Get it good and breadcrumbed. Just like that. It smells good. It's not even cooking and it smells good. Okay. And this is what it'll look like when you got everything done. This little one right here is my picky daughter. She doesn't like anything in it, just everything on it. So we're going to go ahead and put both these pans in the oven. Remember, I said that it was very important that you did not forget to put your potatoes in with your pork chops, because they will cook together. 5 minutes before you take your potatoes and your stuff out, you're going to want to start your corn, your fried corn, which I've got ready here. I've drained it extra good, so let's hope this time it works. Put a little bit of oil, about 2 tablespoons of oil, and you put your corn in there. Keep on the food. You can salt and pepper it if you want. I like a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. And just fry it in the oil. And then when you're done, after it's done, it should be golden brown, you know. Just let it set for a few minutes. It should be nice and golden brown. And then when I'm done cooking my fried corn,